Who are you? Who am I? Are we a name, an idea, a brand? Today, we'll be exploring the idea of identities. As such, it feels fitting that we start by identifying ourselves with a team roll call. Dunk Dinker, our head chef.
And body chef.
Herbert Swindenlauer, an expert on communication. Seagal, our navigator and spyware that came built in with the ship. Myself, Lorne Ipsum, as our ship's yeoman, and led by our stalwart commanding officer. Together, we are the C Team, diving into depths both literal and metaphorical on topics such
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm the new technician, Big J.
He doesn't look very big.
Anyway, I'm in the shuttle pod awaiting pickup.
Hold on, stranger. We're still getting familiar. Now, we did get the start of a message today, but it hasn't finished yet. So far, all we got is big, which could mean anything.
Big J awaiting pickup is the gist.
Or big pizza party. Gods know we've earned it. Point is, until the facts proves one way or the other, we're gonna have to hunker down and wait. Hot dang, that gives me an idea. While we're idling to identify you, we can talk about the ideals on identifying with the idea of identities. What is a person? What is a character? And when does the line blur? Let's dive in. Today's episode is about identity and authenticity in entertainment. Who am I and who are you? Am I a person or am I a tool used by an invisible hand to make money and brainwash kids? Find out with me, Low Headroom. Identity isn't always as simple as character versus actor. Max Headroom, MTV host and not quite CGI animated character, is obviously not real.
This junk is a machine.
But with the rising popularity of VTubers, vloggers, and influencers, the line between a person and a character is getting muddled like a mojito.
Oh, are you doing some kind of show?
I couldn't possibly know what you mean.
Who are you even talking to?
Depending on who you ask, Max was the first virtual host. Cooked up by MTV, the initial idea was to spice up the spaces between music videos with graphics. But they learned quickly that simple graphics were, well, boring. They decided to lean into that. The dullest thing they could think of was a middle-class white male in a suit talking at a screen about music videos.
There's nothing in that, is there?
The problem was that the CGI they wanted for Max was, in the 80s, unattainable. An actor with prosthetics made to look as if he was made from a computer was the money. Max Headroom was, at his core, just a character portrayed by an actor. But for the viewer, Max Headroom was a person, or at least the image of a person. But we wouldn't expect Matt Frewer, Max's actor, to be Max. If you steal Matt Frewer's person, that's identity theft. If you steal Max Headroom's person, that's copyright infringement. But the line between what is real and what isn't is blurry, even for flesh and blood people. Callie Holterman, reporter for the New York Times, wrote that Will Smith and his family made intimacy its stock in trade, and have become the first family of putting it all out there. Will Smith is an actor, like Matt Frewer, but unlike Max Headroom, Will Smith is a version of Will Smith.
I mean, everyone performs in their life. Maybe you've performed the role of the ideal employee at work, or the role of the ideal child to your father like me. But when that performance becomes recorded, published, and commodified, that performance becomes more than just code switching. It becomes something we critique as media, celebrities, our people, and content at the same time.
If you can't handle fame, maybe don't become famous?
I can see why you might think that, because nobody knows who you are or cares. But fame and attention comes quickly and doesn't really come with terms and conditions. Not that anybody would ever read those things.
I read it because I definitely know how to read.
What was that? Was that a bear?
We all have public personas that we use to ensure we are perceived in certain ways. But for people of influence and power, that person becomes not only a tool to survive social interaction, but a brand. A politician's public persona is a tool to gain votes. A YouTuber's public persona is to get views and to get viewers to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. The thing about a public persona is that people believe that's who you really are. Sometimes that's good. Your public persona might be aspirational, fake it till you make it, you know? But when it's a version of yourself that you're portraying to get views, or grow your Patreon following, or to sell ad space.
Buy things now on sale for half off what twice the price usually is.
It's hard to keep track of who you are and who you are. Meet Brittany Broski. After a rise to viral fame in 2019 over a bottle of kombucha, dubbing her Kombucha Girl, she accomplished a feat that not many do. She maintained her audience. Originally gaining followers for short-form content, she now makes longer-form content, including podcasts, The Broski Report with Brittany Broski,
with your host, Brittany Broski.
and Brittany Broski's Royal Court. Broski, though, now mixing off-the-cuff and pre-planned content, finds it hard to differentiate between what is content and what is her. She says, "It's so easy to feel like you're not real. You're playing a character online, like different versions of the same person. It is so strange. Doing sketches on TikTok can use less of your personal self than an extended podcast where you have to talk for an hour without stopping. That incongruity can even trigger larger existential crises." She continues saying,
We're caricatures of ourselves. And how do you separate that from how and who I really am? You know, my thoughts, my feelings, what I talk about in my personal life and what I choose not to talk about online.
Our public personas are the ones that people see, hence public. Naturally, we grow attached to people that we like. Developing a one-sided relationship with people we've never met is a common phenomenon that existed far before the internet and influencer culture. In the paper Attribution in Social and Parasocial Relationships, researchers studied soap opera watching college students and found that the feelings they developed for the characters on screen were based on the same influences as regular relationships. We learn things about the people around us, and we use that information we've learned to build up a perception of who those people are.
so what happens when someone's real actions contradict their persona? If being able to predict what someone will say or do makes you feel closer to them, what happens if they do or say something that you can't predict? What happens when they do or say something you find objectionable? Enter Ned Fulmer. Oh, hey, Dunk, what's up?
It's in the rules. Till death do you part. I would know. I've been married, 1, 2, 3. A bunch of times. And the thing that really burns me is that his whole brand was that he loved his wife. It's unbearable. Parasocial relationships are fine, but controversies like Ned's show that your heroes can be sweet on the screen but nasty behind the scenes. For those of you unaware, Ned Fulmer was a member of a 4-person video content creator group called
The Try Guys,
formerly operating under BuzzFeed, which is not a website about honey. Until they broke from the company in 2018 and founded their own LLC, and now they've broken from Ned.
Arwa Maidawi writes that Fulmer isn't just another moderately famous man who cheated on his wife. He's a man who has built his entire personal brand on creating content focused on how much he loves his wife. He's a wife guy.
And it's not like famous people cheating is new, but with social media, it's easier than ever to fact check whether or not our favorite influencers are actually pieces of garbage. Especially when you present your public persona as yourself. Fans themselves were the ones who discovered Fulmer's unfaithfulness. We're not only watching celebrity drama now, but actively participating in it.
But if we can participate, then doesn't that make it a regular relationship?
Not really. It's still one-sided, and the feelings of betrayal come from when the people we're bonding with do or say something we would never expect.
When the information we gather to reduce uncertainty is suddenly inadequate, it feels like we don't know someone. And when you've developed a parasocial bond with a person, confronting the fact that you've only been getting to know a constructed public persona is a reminder of the fact that this is a one-sided relationship.
And that hurts, man.
It hurts when the people we trust do things we don't like or can't understand, but that happens with people. Walt Whitman said, "Do I contradict myself? Yes, I do. I contain multitudes. Humans are complex, unpredictable. It's characterization that can't stand contradiction. If you say that you like the color blue and then an hour later you say you actually like the color red, then that's just a human being trying to work out their feelings about color. If a character says they like blue and then later that they like red with no explanation, that's a continuity error. But what changes when it's a totally fictional character, like a cartoon? At least with a character like Max Headroom, there's a human underneath all the makeup and prosthetics that you can bond with. But can people really bond with animated characters the same way they bond with human actors playing characters?
The answer is yes, obviously.
Herb is right, I guess. The only difference is that Brittany Broski's character is a version of herself, whereas Steamboat Willie is entirely constructed. We're still observing and gathering information on an animated character to reduce uncertainty and predict their actions like we do with real people. It's not exactly the same. Any relationship with a fictional character is by nature parasocial, since we don't have agency as real people. Characters aren't people, but tools. Gorilla's co-creator Jamie Hewlett said, "If you're going to pretend to be somebody you're not, which is the whole point of being a rock star, then why not just invent fake characters and have them do it all for you?" Rock on. There are many reasons creators choose to use animation over live action. Gorillas used virtual characters to take on the fame of success in the music industry, while allowing them to still play live like regular musicians.
Similarly, League of Legends K-pop band KDA uses characters from their game to populate their band, but they use human performers and animated performers at live shows. Riot creative lead Veranda Tantala said that one of the most fun things about League is actually the human element. There's a certain raw human element you can't yet capture in a virtual performer, such as an amazing vocal ad-lib or a live expression between a performer and an audience member on the camera. All characters are used as tools, and in the case of KDA and Gorillaz, the humans are typically kept separate from the characters they play. They're performers inhabiting a character, exactly like Matt Frewer and Max Headroom, or Kombucha Girl.
Brittany Tomlinson and Queen Lady Brittany of House Broski.
Ostensibly, there's no difference between a flesh and blood person saying they're a wizard. You're a wizard, Herbie.
I'm a what?
And a cartoon saying that they're a wizard. They're both liars, and I won't be fooled again. But is there a cartoon equivalent of Brittany Broski's off-the-cuff improvisational characterization of herself?
Oh, you're asking a question. What about those vtubers? Aren't they basically cartoons where real humans move like a puppet?
They're vtubers, and there's nothing basic about them. Jumpsuit.
In essence, a streamer will map a cartoon character to their body, so when they raise their eyebrows, so does the cartoon. When they open their mouths to scream, "Let's go," so does the cartoon. Seems simple, right?
You wouldn't be telling me this if it was, though, right?
You're catching on already, newbie. It's simple enough now, but many VTubers have stories constructed around them, giving them history, backstory, lore, which makes these virtual streamers not just a cartoon image that a real person uses to obscure their identity. They become characters, and they become something we critique as media. The VTuber persona becomes distinct and separate from the persona of the streamer portraying them.
What's interesting is how the relationship between a real person and their public persona changes with the inclusion of a very obvious facade. For example, one of the most popular VTubers, Gawargura, is a small girl with white hair and a shark tail. This is obviously not a real human. However, the real human's identity is obscured, and if you check the fandom page for Gawargura, you won't find any information on the real person. Instead, you'll find information about this character. If I'm developing a parasocial relationship with this VTuber, am I bonding with the person behind the mask or the mask itself?
VTubers construct character over time and improvisationally, just like Brittany Broski. Unlike Broski, though, their virtual identities are obviously characters, and viewers treat them as such. Like I mentioned earlier, we contain multitudes, but a character needs continuity.
Well, not necessarily. Gura forgets her age all the time. In her debut stream, she said that her age was 9,361, and then, after admitting she forgot, she said 9,927. However, in a later stream, she said 4,000.
We're getting hung up on contradictions, but the point is that characters demand to be critiqued as characters, and when a character claims something about themselves, it becomes canon, it becomes real. Humans forget, lie, misspeak, and we have room for that in our relationships with other humans. There is no room for that in a parasocial relationship with a person that doesn't really exist. VTubers represent a fascinating intersection between character and person that seems to improve the relationship between creator and created. Brittany Broski said she suffered mental breakdowns trying to figure out what was her and what was her persona, but the person behind Gawargura doesn't have that problem in the same way. The allegedly 9,000-year-old anime baby is obviously not the person sitting behind a desk playing Dead by Daylight for Herbie on Twitch.
Unlike actors on a stage and band members putting on prosthetics and masks for live shows, VTubers are more than willing to drop the act and comment as themselves in the middle of their performances. Music YouTuber Ama Lee primarily releases covers of popular songs from anime using her VTuber persona, Monarch. There is Ama Lee, who makes music, and there's Monarch, a character who, in context, is singing the music. However, Ama Lee doesn't want to make it easy for me, and she'll break character mid-performance to comment on the meta-construction of the character. In a YouTube short, Ama Lee comments on how her performance of Monarch has changed over the 2 years that she had been streaming. She said that her streams started
calm and collected, always very elegant and talking so very regally. Hello.
But now...
Rats.
For Ama Lee and other VTubers, breaking character isn't a problem like it is on stage or in the movies. It allows VTubers more flexibility in how they choose to represent themselves. Unlike Brittany Broski, they can, if they want, keep keep their real identity hidden and only perform as their character. How does this impact the formation of parasocial relationships? And how does this impact the self-identity of the performers?
When talking about performance and character, we should remember that characters are tools that exist because we need them to perform a function. Characters move through a story to help us feel more human. Humans move through the world because they have to. Whether you're watching old MTV skits, Britney Broski podcasts, or Gauragura streams, if you like it and the people making it like it, then that's beautiful. Parasocial relationships get a bad rap, mostly because we only hear when people get too attached. But really, we're all just reaching out and looking for connection. And when you reach out and find a hand to hold, who am I to critique that relationship to death?
We are only cartoon characters after all.
Me? I'm real for sure. I'm Big J, technician from
B-Team, full name not disclosed, work order length determined indefinite pending installation of QN Model 3 and education of C-Team members Dunk, Herbert, and Lorne through training modules 1A through 17C. Coordinates to follow upon scheduled call at 0600 hours. Nutrient flavor preference, matcha green tea.
I'm afraid we only have Darjeeling.
The rest of the facts came in, huh?
It did! Old tech can be fussy, though I suppose you know all about that. Because you're Big J, the technician from B-Team.
Yeah, I already said that. What's your ETA?
Hard to say. Then again, I don't really know what ETA means.